After 2 months of hiatus, One Punch Man has finally returned. The cover page of One Punch Man Chapter 210, titled Intensive Training Camp, features a very toned pinup of Suiru's sister, Suiko, while he, Saitama, and Genos get up to some summer-themed antics. Sweet Mask was relieved to see Saitama show up to meet him at a local cafe. After the misunderstanding from the previous night with Genos, the idol hero assumed that Kate Baldy would reject his offer. He expressed his gratitude, while Saitama took in their luxurious surroundings. Saitama admitted that at first, he didn't think Sweet Mask was talking to him. Either way, people don't usually invite him out for lunch. Between free food and having no plans for the day otherwise, there was no reason for him to refuse. Sweet Mask let him know that they're in his favorite cafe, what he describes as a hidden gem with a nice and quiet vibe. Before long, a waiter was with them and asked for their order. Looking at the menu, Saitama decided to go with a simple cola. Sweet Mask ordered their homemade lemonade. Then he had the audacity to order a shiso ginger ale for Saitama. With that out of the way, the top A-class hero didn't waste any time getting to the heart of their meeting. Missing the bald man's apprehension, Sweet Mask asked the hero if he knows about the world entering a new era of change. And here is where we finally get a proper explanation about the world this story takes place in. The mere concept of various different countries existing is pretty much ancient history to them. The human nations of the past are remembered for their world-spanning wars over land and resources. Eventually, the population dwindled, and simply preserving humanity became their utmost priority. As a result, language was unified, and so was humanity under a single governmental body. This is all described as being the first era of change. Now, if this all occurred prior to the world having any monsters, then we're looking at a time frame of at least 800 years ago or longer. I say this because we know that 800 years ago, Cruel Dragon arrived on Earth. The monster became synonymous with destruction after wiping out countless humans and settlements in only a matter of days. And as we discussed with the previous chapter, Saitama's Cruel Dragon adventure was originally featured just before these current events. So the timing is pretty fascinating. Sweet Mask continued by saying that the wars of the past progressively degraded the planet. This caused environments to become inhospitable and toxic. Climate change spread up tremendously. Sea levels rose, and dangerous organisms flourished. This forced humanity to abandon its many territories and concentrate its efforts on a single supercontinent. This resulted in the mass migration of humanity. And despite the difficulties, they managed to withstand this second era of change. And the United Nation became as strong as the ones of the past. Now, because of Saitama's fight against Garo, we saw a previously sunken landmass emerge from the sea. And this location featured an ancient shrine dedicated to Cruel Dragon. This place was presumably created by the original Dragonborn members of the Deathbone organization. But as a result of the rising sea levels, the area was lost for hundreds of years. We saw that the saints and members of Deathbone fought with simple martial weapons. Thanks to the distinction that humanity regained its modern technology by the end of the Second Era, we can infer that they went back to the basics for a very long time. Human progression was pretty much hit with a reset, and it took quite some time for them to recover. Sweet Mask assumed that Saitama was silent because he already learned about all of this stuff in elementary school. Sweet Mask admitted that he has been conducting biology-related research for a good while. Thanks to that, he knows that humans are what may be considered to be constant environmental beings. This means that they are a unique species that is able to control the environment to suit their needs. This is a rather remarkable ability that has allowed them to survive against all odds and in spite of their physical limitations. Just then, the waiter returned with Sweet Mask's drink. Swirling it around, he added that what humanity now faces isn't something they can solve by simply adjusting to their environment, which is to say that the third era of change has arrived. He questioned if Saitama knew what that danger might be. Saitama was unresponsive. Then the waiter delivered the shiso ginger ale that he totally didn't order. Sweet Mask described the answer as being humanity's natural enemy, the rise of highly intelligent monsters. Just a few years ago, such mysterious beings were a rarity. But these days, the frequency of evacuation alarms and rising disaster levels have placed the populace on edge. As a reminder, the Hero Association has only been around for a bit over 3 years now, so presumably, casual heroes like Blast and governmental involvement was enough to deal with such threats before. We know that back when Saitama was in middle school, which was 13 years ago, a wolf-level threat like Piggy Bancon was notable enough to receive considerable media coverage. And in the end, it only took the military and police to take it down. Each member of the S-Class heroes is considered to at least be the equivalent of an emergency division of the army. Generally, a military division would be somewhere between 10,000 and 20,000 soldiers. Including the ones who transferred to Neo Heroes, that's at least 16 emergency divisions. And it's not like all the S-Class heroes are equal in strength. Mind you, humanity has no idea how many world-ending threats Saitama managed to defeat even before he joined the Hero Association. Even he doesn't remember. Vaccine Man alone probably could have wiped out most of the S-Class heroes, and Saitama handled him in the first chapter. So yeah, the problem is far worse than even Sweet Mask knows. But at that, he found the emergence of monsters who were originally human to be especially troubling. And rightfully so. Not only did they make up some of the most powerful monsters of the Monster Association, but they also seemed to be God's preference. Meanwhile, Saitama still hadn't touched his drink. Not noticing, Sweet Mask mentioned the need for a cure, a way for humanity to respond to the emergence of monsters. He proposed the need for humanity to strengthen its figurative immune system, and do so by way of heroes. Pointing at Saitama, the idol insisted that they need to increase the number of capable heroes. And for that to happen, they would need a charismatic, absolute hero who would lead and encourage them. He foresees the ascension of a true hero, bringing about great change to their chaotic world. And that is the kind of hero that Sweet Mask intends for Saitama to become. Sweet Mask is ready to be his Nick Fury and turn Saitama into the very first superhero. All he needs is Saitama's trust and obedience. There was an awkward silence between them. Breaking it, Sweet Mask decided not to waste any time. He figured that they should get to know each other better in order to build that trust. He had more plans for the rest of their day. After leaving the cafe, they'd be headed to a private location, which he already had a reservation for. Saitama would have a chance to share his thoughts while they eat lunch. He also told Saitama to let him know if he has any food allergies. Little does he know that this man Saitama has eaten monsters on multiple occasions. Not only that, but all this time, Saitama was so peeved by Sweet Mask ordering for him that he didn't end up hearing a single word of what he said. Even now, he missed some really major bits of information, such as the fact that Sweet Mask is planning on shifting the entire framework of justice and heroics in their society. He plans on abolishing the S-Class entirely, something that he could actually do considering his current position with the Hero Association. Hell, this entire conversation with Saitama is something that appears to have been approved since he met with the other executives about his plan ahead of time. Sweet Mask would have his manager do something specific for him. He mentioned some sort of top secret project that he didn't want Saitama telling anyone about, and since he knows the relationship Kate Baldy has with Demon Cyborg, that would include Genos. He's gotten into contact with the world's leading authority on hair growth research, so he has the power to help Saitama regain his hair, something that from his appearance-oriented outlook would be necessary for this plan to work. And in doing so, Saitama would no longer be Kate Baldy. He could actually end up with a cool hero name like he hoped for, and doing so would actually be really quick. All he needed from Saitama was a signature. They're also planning on producing better gear to boost the combat capabilities of their heroes of B class and lower. He wanted to reinvigorate society's faith in heroes and mentioned proper acknowledgement from the upper brass of the Hero Association. And Saitama missed all of this life-changing information because he didn't get the soda he wanted. From there, they moved to their second location. Sweet Mask had a beautiful assortment of food placed in front of both of them. Saitama was amazed, but wondered why Sweet Mask was treating him so well. Again, He didn't listen to anything Sweet Mask said about his intentions. Oblivious, Sweet Mask let him know that this isn't just a courtesy. Like he told the hero, this is to be an intensive training camp. The superstar idol even cleared his schedule for the next 48 hours just to do this. Mind you, not even a secret meeting with his fellow S-Class heroes after the Monster Association was enough to keep this guy from his day job, so that just goes to show how serious he is about this. Finally hearing something, Saitama asked the other hero if he wanted to train with him. The A-Class hero corrected him. He already knows that Saitama is really strong. Instead, he's more interested in getting to know Saitama's value system and humanity, which is exactly what should be questioned about Saitama. In an effort to fully unlock Saitama's heroic potential, Sweet Mask would be teaching him everything he knows. Aside from eating, they were also here to study. It turns out that Sweet Mask managed to receive a generous budget for Saitama's rebrand. Sweet Mask planned on instilling his philosophy, experience, and knowledge of the unwritten rules of the business. Unfortunately, Saitama didn't seem to share his enthusiasm. A bit of time passed. Sweet Mask was in the middle of explaining unshakable conviction and the necessity of strength, elegance, and victory. Similarly to how anime and movies are able to inspire courage in others, Sweet Mask envisioned a real hero with the ability to do the same by simply existing. Something that would be imperative, as responding to each call for help would be impossible. This was the general basis of his vision. Something else that Saitama totally missed since he was already fast asleep. And they were only 20 minutes into the lesson. Saitama woke up and scratched his head. He was struggling to stay awake, since from his perspective, Sweet Mask hadn't even started to talk about heroes yet. His tutor was dumbfounded. Just behind him on the board were the various things that Sweet Mask covets as the cornerstones of his intentions: virality and notoriety, which lead to media exposure, the synchronicity between voice and face, the importance of a brand, fan support, and trademarks. The bare minimum of A-Class level strength was quite important, just like the need for a special technique, and of course, budgets, which require proper approval forms. None of which Saitama ever needed to save lives or the world. While the idol's intentions may be good, his outlook on heroics is quite vain. This chapter was very faithful to the webcomic, which to me is a great sign. Hopefully this generally continues to be the case, and I hope you'll be with us for all that and more. As always, I'm Slice of Otaku. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.